I was 13 when it sank in. That sinking, stomach-deep realization that I was just an afterthought in my own family's narrative. Not all at once. It was more like a dull ache that sharpened with time. Birthday candles no one lit. Parent-teacher nights where my name was barely remembered. And the echoing silence on the sidelines of my volleyball games. My little brother Asher was the one who lit up their world. The miracle baby after mom's complicated surgery. He came into the world glowing, swaddled in love and attention, while I quietly faded into the background, like last season's Christmas lights. Asher had it all: custom sneakers, piano lessons, a new gaming setup every birthday, and a room with built-in surround sound and LED lights. Me? I shared a corner of the basement with a water heater and a shelf of paint cans. When I asked for a new backpack, I was told, "Use your imagination, Ella. Resourcefulness builds character." At first, I didn't resent it. Not really. I told myself they were just tired, that they had more bills now, that maybe I was strong enough to need less. But it's hard not to notice when you're pedaling your rusted-out mountain bike through a snowstorm to get to school and your brother gets chauffeured to chess camp in a heated SUV he barely appreciates. My dad used to say, "We raise individuals, not favorites." But it always felt like I was a bench warmer in a game where only one of us got to play. Then came the December before Asher's high school graduation. I had just turned 21, juggling a full course load at Metro State while working nights at a warehouse to cover what my scholarship didn't. I kept a 4 GPA, helped Asher with his college apps, and still managed to fix dinner most nights because mom's migraines had gotten worse. That Christmas morning, I wasn't expecting anything big. Maybe a sweater, a new set of headphones if they remembered. But I looked out the window, and there it was, parked in the driveway, glinting in the Denver sun. A brand new Tesla, wrapped in a red ribbon like a prize from a sweepstakes. I didn't even need to ask. Asher ran outside, whooping like a lottery winner, and my parents followed close behind, beaming, clapping, taking pictures on their phones. "Stand next to the bow," Mom shouted. I stood behind the living room curtain, hidden in the folds, waiting for someone to remember me, hoping, always hoping. Eventually, Dad turned toward the house and shouted, "We've got something for you too, Ella." He opened the garage and wheeled out a second-hand mountain bike, my old one, just repainted. Still had the dent in the frame. "You can ride this to class next semester. More eco-friendly anyway," he said with a grin. It wasn't the Tesla. It wasn't even the dented bike. It was the sentence that followed. "You're more grounded, sweetie. Asher needs something with a little flair, you know. He's got big interviews coming up. You don't care about stuff like this, right?" I didn't respond. I didn't cry. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted copper, then nodded and went back downstairs. But I did care. Not about the car, about being seen. That spring, I launched my startup out of my dorm room, an AI tool for warehouse inventory optimization. I'd been building it quietly, between night shifts and midterms. By the time I graduated, I'd landed 3 logistics clients and sold the company for enough to pay off my student loans, and then some. On my 22nd birthday, I bought myself a Porsche Taycan. Midnight blue, silent engine, 0 emissions. I pulled into my parents' driveway during Asher's college send-off barbecue. Music was blasting, neighbors were over, someone pointed at the car. Mom dropped her paper plate. Dad blinked. "Whose car is that?" I stepped out and smiled. Mine. No ribbon, no announcement, just quiet power. Because it turns out I do care. I just stopped needing their permission to shine. "Thanks," I said that morning, the word catching in my throat like a splinter. Then I slipped away, unnoticed, into the attic. I spent the rest of Christmas Day holed up there, curled beneath a moth-bitten quilt, watching snow fall through a round frost-ringed window. I wrapped my disappointment in silence, like it was a gift I never asked for, but had to pretend to love. But in that silence something cracked. Not a breakdown, a blueprint. That moment became the quiet turning point. I stopped waiting to be chosen. I started building. Every year the responsible one, and every you've always needed less turned into kindling. The fire was small at first, but it never went out. I took more shifts at the university bookstore, stayed late to reshelve when others went home. I learned HTML and JavaScript from YouTube tutorials between textbook returns. I taught myself how to repair broken websites for student groups and struggling startups, charging $50, 0 cents here, $100, 0 cents there. And when I wasn't working or studying, I was learning taxes, investments, how to flip used laptops for profit. I read about compounding interest while folding laundry and analyzed ETFs in the back of lecture halls. By the time I turned 20, I'd already moved off campus into a shoebox studio with terrible plumbing but fast Wi-Fi. I worked from my car between classes and meetings, drinking gas station coffee and sketching wireframes in the margins of my notebook. Chloe, my younger brother turned family idol, dropped out of his internship, said it was too toxic. My parents nodded, murmured something about mental wellness, and sent him to Bali to decompress. They didn't ask how I was managing. They never noticed I graduated early, with honors. They didn't see the side hustle become a real business, or the day I got my first angel investor to back me with $20,000, 0 cents and a handshake. They never knew how close I came to giving up, but didn't, because I did notice. And that made all the difference. By Christmas of my senior year, everything had changed. The bike was gone. So was the attic. I didn't wake up to snow leaking through cracked window panes. I woke up to heated floors, filtered sunlight, and a skyline view from a corner suite I paid for with the money I made. My company, Thomson Net Secure, had just signed a 6-figure cybersecurity contract with a European firm expanding into the US. I had 5 employees, health benefits for all of them, and a growing waitlist of clients. And parked downstairs was the gift I gave myself the day I crossed 7 figures in revenue, a custom-ordered Bentley Continental GT, midnight sapphire with white leather interior. It wasn't about the car. It was about what it meant. I didn't need a seat at anyone's table. I had built my own. But that Christmas, I decided I'd drive home. Not for closure, not for forgiveness, for clarity, for me. No text, no call, just the quiet purr of the Bentley gliding across snow-dusted roads, each mile peeling back the past like old wallpaper. I turned onto our street, where the same houses still stood like frozen relics, same porch lights, same silence. The garage door at my parents' house was open, and there it was, the crooked lawn chair, still sitting half-folded in the corner like someone meant to throw it out 10 years ago. Hanging beside it, just where they left it, was the bike. My bike. Flat tire, rusting handlebars, a ghost of the girl they thought would never leave. I stepped out, heels clicking on the concrete, the cold biting at my coat. Across the yard, I saw a curtain flutter in the living room. Then the door opened. Mom stood in the doorway, wearing the same navy sweater from last Christmas. Her hand rose slowly to her mouth. "Ella," she said. I just smiled. I didn't say much. I didn't need to. Some moments speak loudest in silence. If this moment gave you chills, you won't want to miss what happens when Ella walks through that door. Tap subscribe and follow the next chapter. Her silence is just the beginning. Chloe's Lexus wasn't in the driveway. Apparently, she'd totaled it last summer coming back from a yoga retreat in Aspen. Claimed the brakes failed. Dad filed it under their insurance, and she's been driving their SUV ever since, despite not having a job to commute to. Mom now called her a delicate soul and said travel had shaken her spirit. She had moved back in, of course, temporarily, Mom said. That was 8 months ago. I stepped up to the front door and knocked, the Bentley's engine purring softly behind me in the snow-covered driveway. Dad opened the door. His eyes flicked to the car behind me. The black Bentley shimmered against the white snow, sleek and deliberate, just like this moment. Is that a rental?" he asked, squinting. I smiled. "No, it's mine." Before he could respond, Chloe clomped down the stairs in designer pajamas. Silk, pastel blue, the kind that probably cost more than my first semester of textbooks. "Oh, wow," she drawled. "Did you win a contest or something?" I laughed, stepping inside. "In a way. If this moment gave you chills, you won't want to miss what happens when Ella walks through that door. Tap subscribe and follow the next chapter." Her silence is just the beginning. Mom entered from the kitchen, holding a mixing bowl in one hand and wearing the same carefully measured expression I remembered. Something between distant politeness and subtle disappointment. But this time, when she looked at me, the mask cracked. "What are you doing here?" she asked. I didn't answer immediately. I looked around. The living room was still the same: heavy furniture, cream-colored carpet, a tree decorated in golds and silvers with a mountain of perfectly wrapped presents underneath. One box in the back had my name on it. Probably socks. Or a mug. "I thought I'd bring my own gift this year," I said calmly, slipping a white envelope from my coat pocket. "What is it?" Dad asked, stepping closer. I handed it to him. He unfolded the document slowly, eyes scanning each line. His hands began to tremble. "What? What is this?" he murmured. "Is a deed," I said softly. "To this house." There was a pause, almost serene, before Chloe gasped. Mom dropped the mixing bowl. It shattered against the tile. "You bought the house?" Mom choked. "That's not... You can't just..." "I did," I said. 3 weeks ago. I waited until the paperwork was finalized to say anything. "You bought our house?" she snapped, her voice rising. "You think you can just show up and..." "No," I interrupted, stepping forward. "I don't think I can. I know I can. Because I did." Dad was still frozen, holding the papers like they were written in another language. "The bank accepted my offer. The house was on the verge of foreclosure, Mom. Guess those wellness retreats and luxury skincare subscriptions weren't exactly free." "You can't just kick us out," Chloe cried, arms flailing like she'd dropped her phone in a fountain. "Actually..." I reached into my bag and pulled out a second envelope, thinner. "These are the formal notices. You have 30 days. Dad looked down at the document again. He didn't speak, just stared. "You always called me the practical one," I said quietly. "Well, this is what practical looks like." "But you're being vindictive," Chloe hissed. "This is insane." "No," I replied, my voice even. "This is long overdue." I looked around one last time. The same carpet I vacuumed growing up, the dent in the baseboard I was blamed for but never made, the couch where Chloe opened her Lexus keys last Christmas while I unwrapped a clearance hoodie. And yet, no bitterness. Just clarity. "You raised a businesswoman," I said, walking to the door. "You just didn't realize it." I stepped outside, the cold air wrapping around me like armor. Behind me, silence. No apologies, no thank yous. Just stunned faces. And that was enough. "Remember last Christmas?" I do. Every pedal on that rusted bike. Every icy windburn across my face. Every time I was told, "You're used to less." I remembered. And apparently so did Mom. Her face was red now, nearly trembling, the mixing bowl shards still scattered at her feet. "We gave you a roof. We fed you. And this is how you repay us?" she snapped, hands clenched. I turned back one last time, calm, deliberate. "You gave me the basement," I said. "You gave her the world." I stepped toward the door. "Now, I own the land you built it all on." Then I walked out as they stood frozen, silent, like the truth had finally found a way in. I slid into my Bentley and let the leather hug me as I took a slow, deliberate breath. The engine purred beneath me, elegant, silent, powerful, just like I had become. I didn't look back, not once. That Christmas morning, I drove past them like they never existed, not out of cruelty, but because they had spent years pretending I didn't. A few weeks later, the house was legally mine. More than that. Emotionally, symbolically, permanently mine. They didn't say goodbye when they left. No surprise. Chloe posted cryptic Instagram stories about toxic family and being betrayed by people you trust. Her captions were always just vague enough to avoid taking responsibility. She posed next to suitcases she didn't pack herself, claiming a fresh start. I didn't comment. I didn't need to. The first night I spent alone in the house was quiet. Eerily quiet. No stomping upstairs. No whispered judgments through thin walls. I walked room to room, slowly. The air felt thinner, freer. I ran my hand along the walls they used to isolate me. I stood in the corner where my childhood desk once was, where I did my homework while Chloe got violin lessons. I opened the tiny hall closet they once said was all the space I needed. It felt like walking through the skeleton of a war I'd already won. But I wasn't that girl anymore. 1 month later, the same town that had once watched me ride a busted bike to school now stood outside the glass doors of Thompson Net Secure's new headquarters. Built right in the district my parents used to call too ambitious, the building stood 3 stories tall, wrapped in chrome and ambition. The name Thompson gleamed in brushed metal above the entrance. At the grand opening, reporters circled, asking questions, snapping photos. One journalist, notebook in hand, leaned in and asked, "What inspired all this? Why start your company?" I smiled slowly, choosing my words. "A bicycle," I said, "and a Bentley." The quote went viral. But that wasn't the twist. 3 days after the article exploded across LinkedIn and the local news, a cream-colored envelope arrived at my new office. Handwritten. No return address. The handwriting was instantly familiar. Slanted. Gray. It was from my grandmother. Or rather, it had been. The woman, they told me, left nothing behind. That all her money was gone. That the estate had been empty. But inside the envelope was a copy of her original will, dated, signed, witnessed. Her words were clear. "My savings, stocks, and jewelry shall go to my first grandchild, the one who visited, called, and made time for me when no one else did." Enclosed was a copy of an account number, 7 figures, fully intact. They had lied. They always knew. And now? The inheritance was already mine, already invested, already multiplying. Just like the quiet revenge they never saw coming. Because sometimes the best gifts come wrapped in silence and sealed with truth. If you've made it this far, thank you for walking this road with me. I didn't share my story for sympathy. I shared it because I know I'm not alone. Some of you reading this have been the practical one, the strong one, the person who's told to settle while others are celebrated. And if that's you, I see you. I was you. So here's what I ask. Leave me a comment below, not just for me, but for every person who's been overlooked and underestimated. Share your advice. Share what you would have told yourself when you were stuck in the attic of someone else's expectations. And if my story gave you a spark, support it, subscribe, share it, speak up. Because the truth is, success doesn't always come wrapped in praise or permission. Sometimes, it's built in silence, quiet nights, long hours, knowing your worth when no one else bothers to ask. So tell me, what's your bike and Bentley moment? What are you building in the background? And remember, don't wait for them to open the door. Build your own, walk through it, and leave it open for the next person who needs the reminder. I'm rooting for you, always.